Welcome to this topic today on addictions. Now, what can Christians be addicted to? I'm telling you, it can be anything. Alcohol, drugs, pornography, carbohydrates, sugar, nicotine, Facebook, their telephone, entertainment. It just goes on and on and on. Addictions are a part of Western culture for sure, and they become problems in Christian marriages, and we don't talk about that much. But a lot of families are struggling with addictions. Okay, addictions rob anyone of spiritual, emotional, and moral maturity. The addict stops developing at the onset of their addiction. And research shows that most addictions begin in adolescence. So when the emotional and social, moral development should be going on, it's sidebarred. The addiction now medicates the feelings that they're not managing. The addiction manages the memories they're trying to escape from or they created for themselves. And now they're not developing. Although they're aging, they're not developing. And someone can be 70 and still be spiritually, morally, a adolescent. And if you're married to them, you're gonna feel like you're married to a child because they're not developing coping strategies, okay? They haven't matured past these things. And this is why you'll often see grown men acting like teenagers. It affects your ability to communicate because you can get shut down or blamed or pushed away or bullied or yelled at. It affects your finances because oftentimes someone who struggles with addiction is thinking in the now. They are not thinking about the future. They're surviving, they're not living. So they're not thinking about preparing college funds for the kids. They're not thinking about a 401k. It will affect how they parent. Because if you are an adolescent, you will parent like an adolescent. You'll be saying things like, do it because I said so, instead of discipling your kids. It affects your social relationships because they're going to want to be around other people that drink or smoke or curse or whatever it is. They're going to want to be with people who share their addiction and who also are immature, which brings immature people into your social circle, which means lying and hurting and betrayal and all kinds of stuff you'd experience in junior high school. And it affects you spiritually and emotionally as you carry the burden of being the responsible, mature adult in your marriage. I can't tell you how many women and some men who have told me it feels like they are parenting everyone. They're taking care of everything. And they feel like the burden, even if the addict has a good job, they feel like they're managing everything. It feels like you have another child instead of a man of God. And that is a whole conversation that we want to unpack at some point, okay? Because it's very common for people with addictions to struggle. So let's walk through the common types of addiction. We kind of hit into this. Substance addictions. That includes drugs, alcohol, prescription medications. Christians sometimes go underground and they do legal drugs. Okay, that can also be an issue. The addict becomes physically and psychologically dependent on these substances, often leading to destructive behaviors and sometimes even health issues. 1 or 2 beers or a glass of wine after work might seem harmless, but it can quickly become a full-blown addiction. Okay, if he needs the substance to relax, or she does, that's something to evaluate, because if you need some kind of drug to relax, you might consider what you're doing there. How about social media addiction? That is a bigger issue in the church than you can imagine. This involves excessive use of platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and on and on and on and on it goes, okay? The point is it interferes in the relationship. You can be having a conversation, all of a sudden they pick up their cell phone, as if you're not even there. You can be at dinner and all of a sudden they just pick up their cell phone and they start scrolling, and you're like, I thought we were supposed to be talking right now, okay? A social media addiction can lead to anxiety depression, not only in adolescents, but in adults, a distorted sense of self-worth due to constant comparison on these other people's wonderful life. And if you find yourself subconsciously just picking up your phone, you might think about you have a phone addiction. And then, I know that sounds funny, but it's real. Gambling addiction. Now, this one often affects men more than women, but I think you can understand the sports betting, the casino stuff, all of that stuff. And this one is serious because it definitely can affect your financial and your emotional relationship very much. Okay, the thrill of winning, okay, can outweigh responsible thinking in their marriage. And there are many addictions that people can have, like food. This type of addiction involves compulsively overeating, often unhealthy foods. Okay, you know, people don't binge on salads. Okay, they go, hey, let's go do salads tonight and really binge. Okay? No, it's usually sugar and carbs and caffeine and things that can lead to obesity, and which relates to other health issues, and it can keep someone in an adolescent state because they look for food to comfort them instead of the Holy Spirit. And what happens is they're looking for pleasure, okay? Whether it's entertainment or food or whatever. Sexual addictions are huge in the church, huge. This affects over 60% of Christian men who are looking at pornography in their homes, on their work computers, and it's destroying marriages all over, and it keeps men in an adolescent state. Men get addicted to the chemical releases that pornography and behaviors that are involved with that do to their brain. And oftentimes this can lead to where you feel as a spouse more like a roommate, okay? And if there is a secret sexual addiction, you're not going to develop. Now, the good news is I've seen thousands of men heal from all of these addictions, okay, if they're willing to do the work. And it's really important that we address addictions, okay? Now, some Christians, like, they have a work addiction. That's a really good one, okay? Because they're doing something positive. It could even be ministry, okay? And they just work. And they're busy. Okay, workaholics find it hard to like disconnect from their jobs or their ministry or their responsibility at the expense of their marriage and kids. And they also stay in an adolescent state, okay, because their mind is always like working on their work, and it makes it very difficult for them to be very present with you and connected with you or the kids, okay? A man needs to be really careful not to be too busy for his wife, family. And I'm not talking about being irresponsible. I'm talking about being responsible with the things that are priorities. Work is a good thing, but it must be in balance of the things that God has given to you. Video games, oh my gosh, you think that would not even be on the table. But I can tell you there's so many adult men who are addicted to the fantasy world through gaming. And if your husband is spending times and hours on this, you know, I remember doing an assessment on someone in my office, and the wife brought it up, and I, well, how many hours are you actually on the screen doing this? And it was like 15 to 25 hours a week. I'll go, yeah, you have an addiction. Okay, you're escaping not only your own feelings, you're escaping your marriage and life. And I'm not opposed to anyone having fun, but if it takes up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you're abandoning your family, there's something wrong with that.
For more content and resources to help in your healing journey with Christ, make sure to follow Dr. Doug Weiss on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to share full episodes of this show with friends and family, subscribe to Healing Time Ministries on YouTube, and feel free to leave us a comment on any of Dr. Doug's social media platforms. Our team would love to hear your feedback and learn how Healing Time is impacting your life, your church, and your ministry.